Hi, it's Elizabeth Willits here from Investing in Women, and I'm delighted because today I am being joined by Laura Shufflebotham from Sense Financial Services, and we're going to be talking all about how to plan your family finances for every eventuality. So this is, I'm so excited. So we've just been having a chat, Laura, and I was like, I don't know that much about how to plan my finances, so I'm going to learn a lot from today. So as people are logging on, if you could let us know if you could hear us all right, give us a hi in comments and like or an emoji, that would be really, really fab. But it's Elizabeth Willits from Investing in Women, and I am with Laura Shufflebotham from Sense Financial Services, and we're going to be talking all about how to plan your family's finances for every eventuality. So if you've got any questions as we're going, just put them in comments and we'll get them answered. We've had a couple of questions already from the Facebook group as well. So thank you so much, Laura, for joining us. I'm really, really excited. So before we start, do you want to give us a little bit of background on who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Laura Shufflebotham. I'm a financial advisor with Centre Financial that's based in Manchester, and we are part of the Open Work Partnership as a network. A lot of my time is spent looking after these two monkeys. If you can see them on my branding pictures behind me. So I'm a single mum to Oliver and Emily. So Oliver's 11, just started high school, and Emily's 7, going on 17. So they take up a lot of my time. I've been in financial services 20 years now, so I've always worked in insurance, banking, and like now in the financial advice world. So been in it a while.
Yeah. And you've been working for yourself, haven't you, for 3 years? Is that?
Yeah, I'm in my 3rd year now, working for myself. I don't think I can ever go back to that employed world now. Having that flexibility, it is pretty life changing to have that, especially with children.
Definitely, no, I get that. Yeah, so I'm really excited. So before we start with some of my questions, I think it'd be interesting to hear what you find are the top concerns that your clients come to you with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the clients that I get, it's the first time they've taken financial advice, and there's usually some catalyst in their life that has caused them to think, I need to sort that out. Sometimes it's a positive, they might have come into some money. Sometimes it's a negative, someone they know has been diagnosed with an illness or someone's passed away. So there's usually reasons behind it, and it's just a case of them thinking, I need to plan, I need to have a look at this rather than putting my head in the sand. Most of my clients tend to be parents and business owners that I've got so far, but they do come from varied backgrounds and different sectors. So protecting what you've got tends to be the first point of call. So have they got the right protection in place? And then that advice around future planning, whether that's savings or pensions or buying another property, going into the buy-to-let world. So very varied in terms of depending what their circumstances are.
Really interesting. So we talked about like people having a catalyst of change.
Mm-hmm.
So what changes do you think you need to make to your financials before and after children? Because that's a huge catalyst change. I know, when I had kids, I suddenly thought about a will for the first time, and you're thinking about, this is an awful statistic, but I remember watching the Martin Lewis program, and he said, this is awful, but like 1 in 30 children will lose a parent by the age of 18. So it's a sad sobering statistic, but it's something I think we all need to be aware of and thinking about how we can look after our families, if the worst happened to us. So
it's a difficult topic. Like, nobody wants to think of the worst case scenarios, but once you've done that type of planning, you have that peace of mind to know that's sorted. So if you've got dependent children, your will is predominantly to put your guardianship wishes in. So if you and your partner or your husband both got died in some traumatic accident, who would you want to look after your children? Because if you haven't got that in place, then the state will decide really what the best options are for your children. So it's always good having that in there and having the conversation with whoever that might be beforehand. Is always good. And wills are straightforward to sort out. It's just taking the time to do it.
And you'd recommend going to somebody like you rather than doing a DIY will online?
Yeah, I don't do the wills myself. I work with some excellent estate planners. Part of my initial meeting, I'll be asking clients if they've got a will. If they haven't, understand the reasons why they need it, get the consent to refer them out, and then they get referred out to an estate planner and they get that done. And then with that ongoing service, I'll know that they've done it or if they've not, because I've got that communication saying we've still not heard back from them, so we can sort of do that little prompt so that it doesn't stay on the to-do list.
Yeah, because I guess as well, I mean, I've read some stories as well where, you know, tragically both parents died in an accident. There's been a child that's been left, and then there's even been relatives arguing on who's looking to the child. It's interesting to know that you have no, obviously, control over, if you don't make a will, what happens to your children afterwards.
No, and like I say, we're hoping that'll never be the case, but the amount of stress, obviously, once you lose a loved one, to then have extra stress because there's no wishes there, and everybody's guessing what they would have wanted, really.
And I guess as well, this is a question. So if you are with somebody and one of you passes away, and you don't have a will, does the partner automatically get everything?
If they've got the parental rights for the child, then they'll look after the child going forward.
I mean, as well, like house, savings, or do you need a will to make sure that
you need a will to make sure? There's the intestacy rules. So if you've got no will, it falls under the intestacy rules. So that's like a flow chart that the government do to say, if this is your situation, this is what would happen. So if you're interested, if you haven't got a will, look that up and think, will I want that to happen to me? And if the answer is no, which I expect it will be, get your will sorted out.
Okay, so what was that called again? Sorry, the flow chart?
It's the intestacy rules.
Okay, sounds like intestine rules. Intestacy. I'll remember that. Okay, so definitely go on that and check. And if you're not happy with where your finances, date, and things are going, then it's worth getting. Well, I mean, I got mine actually free through our bank account, so I know that sometimes you can get things like that.
Yeah, it's always worth speaking to somebody, because although you can get free wills and you can do one through WH Smith's and get your own kit, is that actually going to do what you want it to do? If you
might not be very good, don't take that advice.
You don't getting a professional to draft your will is always advisable, especially because it don't cost that much anyway, and then you've got that reassurance that it's going to do what you want it to do.
Okay, and then thinking about like life insurance. Because you were saying that people come to you sometimes, they've had positives, they've had children, but then also a negative, they might have been diagnosed with an illness. So is that too late then to get life insurance? Is the time to get life insurance before?
Life insurance is best to get when you're younger, you're fitter, you've got less health risks. You do have life insurance providers that will specialise in people with pre-existing medical conditions. Clearly, it's going to cost you more. Yeah. From a life insurance point of view, you're usually doing it for various reasons, protecting a liability like a mortgage. So if you pass away, your mortgage is paid off. I work with a lot of parents and do family income benefit plans. So there's something that not everybody knows a lot about, and it is effectively a life insurance. So I've got one that says, let's use the example, if my husband died, then I would get an income of, say, £2,000 a month until my children are 21. And it's basically to replace the income of the lost parent.
Okay. So what's that? I've not heard of that.
Family income benefit.
Okay. And that's different to the life insurance.
It is a form of life insurance, but it's paid as a regular amount each month rather than like, here's £100,000 to pay off your mortgage. So if you lose a partner, you might have a mortgage-free house, but you've still got children that, let's be fair, aren't cheap. So family income benefit is another way of protecting the lost income of a spouse that's passed away or a partner that's passed away. Or people use it if they pay child maintenance. So if you're separated from your partner and they pay you X amount a month child maintenance, if they died, that child maintenance would stop because they're not here to pay it anymore. So that's another way that some people use it for.
Okay. And then is there a sort of a formula when you're working out? I mean, on the family income insurance that we just talked about, that's obviously quite self-explanatory. You just take whatever your partner would get paid, and then. But in terms of life insurance, when we did it, we just sort of worked out what was outstanding on the mortgage and insured that amount. But I'm wondering if there's a better formula that people can use.
Well, your mortgage insurance, on the basis that you're on a repayment mortgage, is your life insurance decreases with your mortgage.
Yeah.
So that reduces down. You can have life insurance on a level basis, so the amount stays the same, and that could be for the family income element of it. It could be because you want to leave a legacy to somebody should you pass away within a period of time, or you've got whole of life, which is another form of life insurance that says, whenever I die, because we're all going to die at some point, I want this amount to be paid out to this person.
Okay. And you can get that for an older person.
Yeah, or people might do whole of life to cover funeral expenses. So they might say, I want £10,000 when I die, and that'll go to my whoever their executor is to pay for my funeral.
Okay. So that sounds really interesting. So thank you. I think that's probably, if people have got any questions on that, then obviously feel free to put them in the comments. So talking about pensions, because that's quite topical. And the retirement age is always changing, and they're talking about getting rid of like the triple lock, aren't they? And the double lock. And we had a chat about this. So I don't know, I'm sure, what is the state pension at the moment?
So your state pension is about 9,300, as it is now, your state pension. Okay. And I always say to clients, even if you get your full state pension, which you have to have the appropriate national insurance contributions to qualify for your full state pension, so it's always worth checking that out on the Gov website. You can get a pension forecast there. That should be your buffer fund in retirement. That should be your cushion. You shouldn't be really relying on the state pension as your only income in retirement. Yeah, because cost of livings are going up and more people are staying in rented accommodation. So, years gone by, retirement used to be your mortgage is paid off, but so many people are living different lifestyles now with things on finance and staying in rented accommodation. It's not, retirement isn't going to be as cheap as it probably would have been.
Yeah. And what age are you when you're eligible to claim it at the moment?
So your state pension varies depending on your date of birth.
Okay.
So 67, 68, depending on when your birthday is. And again, you can do that on the Gov website, work out what your state pension age is.
And it'll probably be older for us.
Just keep going up, basically.
So what advice would you give to people in terms of how much they should be putting away to have a comfortable retirement?
I always tell clients to aim for $250 in a pension pot. That's just my general rule of thumb.
£1,000.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people tend to have old pensions that they get a statement and put it in a drawer and think, I don't understand it. I'm nowhere near retirement. I'll deal with that later. If you've got old pensions, it's worth looking at them now just to see where they're invested, how much they're costing you. You
can put them all into one pension pot as well, can't you? And I think there's companies that like locate, I've seen them on the tube, or your various pension pots.
Yeah. So a lot of my work is pension consolidation. So a client will come to me and say, I've got 4 pensions. They'll fill in a letter of authority. I'll write off to the pension providers, and then we'll have a meeting to say, right, this is what these 4 pensions are doing. This is where they're invested. This is how much they're costing you. And these are what options you'll have available to you if they stay where they are when you reach your retirement age. And then we talk about what the best options for the clients are. You can do DIY, like you can do DIY anything, can't you? You can do DIY anything these days. You can do it through like Pension Bee and things like that, where they'll consolidate for you. But that's what's called execution only. There's no advice really. So I'd
advise like on the current pension funds available through other providers and where's the best place for you to put your
all my advice is specific to the client, where they are now, where they want to be, what's their attitude to risk in terms of how comfortable are they with investment risk and what's going to be more appropriate for them. Pension consultations are at no cost. So it's always worth getting professional advice. And I think that's a misconception that you've got to have loads of money or it's going to cost you a fortune to see an advisor. I'm not saying all advisors do it that way, but I do the initial consultations at no cost. So it's always worth getting that professional advice, and then you can then choose what to do going forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should be aiming to get a pension pot of about $250. I mean, what sort of do you know how much that would roughly amount to each month? I mean, I suppose it depends when you start saving.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rule of thumb. They say you should do 12.5% of your monthly.
That's quite a lot. Because, I'm sure a lot of parents are like this at the moment. Like, childcare is ridiculous. Cost of childcare for a lot of people is like more than their mortgage, and a lot of people don't have that 12.5% to put in a pension pot at the moment. So yes, I suppose it's like then you're thinking, oh my god, I've got to catch up and.
But I mean, what I found when my children were in childcare, because you get some funding, don't you, once they reach a certain age, is money that I used to pay towards my childcare, I rediverted into savings at the time rather than a pension, because you're used to spending it.
Yeah.
So if disposable income is something that you don't have at the moment, when something changes, whether a bill goes down, whether that's childcare or something else, redivert that into a form of future planning.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, oh, I've got an extra few £100 in the bank each month, like that's an extra couple of meals out. Try and do it more proactively for the future.
Yeah, oh, I like that. That's a really good tip. Yeah, so if you're used to having expensive bills and then they go away, then yeah, keep using that money. I really like that tip. And then someone had a question in the Facebook group about if there is sort of a change in your income circumstances. So if you're full time and then you drop to part time, how can we minimise the effect on our pension pot?
Well, I always say have a budget. So everyone should have a spreadsheet with a household budget on to know how much their costs are.
Yeah.
I also recommend all clients have 3 to 6 months expenditure in an accessible cash account. That's your emergency fund.
Yeah.
Now, when I went part-time from full-time, I basically saved up enough to give me a buffer for when I went part-time.
Okay, so you used your emergency fund for that.
Yeah.
So you've gone self-employed as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so over time, I've gradually worked towards that freedom element of my working life. Your pension, if you're employed, obviously you'll have your employee contributions, but if you've got a private pension, you can change it to your circumstances. So you can have your direct debit going out every month at an amount that's affordable. So some of my clients say, whatever happens, I know that £200 a month will be fine for me. And then when we reach the end of the tax year, they might say, well, actually, I've managed to accumulate X amount extra. I want to put that in my pension now and then top it up before the end of the year. So I think if you can afford to have something regularly going into a pension or any other form of savings that's going to help you in the future, just set it up so it's there, because people can come into this trap thinking, I haven't got enough to justify setting something up. But if once something's set up, it's easier to increase it than it is to just never had done it in the first place.
Yeah. And the you get tax relief, don't you? Is it for pensions?
Yes. Pensions are the best savings plan in the world, in my opinion, because you get free money. Because the government say, we don't want to keep all you guys through retirement. You're going to cost us a fortune. If you save for your own, if you start doing your own pension planning, we'll give you this tax relief as a bit of an incentive. So you get tax relief at your highest marginal rate into a pension. So you get your basic rate at source. And then if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you do it on your tax return to get that extra bit back. But pensions can be a great tax planning tool, depending on what your earnings are as well. And again, advisors like myself can advise more specifically on that through that advisory process. People don't know what they don't know, generally. But in terms of financial planning, education is the key to people to know what options are available to them. And that's what my process is, to educate my client that these are what your options are, and then they can move forward from there. It might not be right now, it might be a plan for in the future, but they know that is.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had some questions come in through LinkedIn. So we'll start with Aisha. She's asked the first question. So she's asked, would you recommend buying life insurance if you are covered by your organisation?
So if you've got your life insurance, you've got your death in service through work. The question is, what would that cover you for when it pays out? And if you've got that, that's great. Just be mindful if your circumstances change, you move employers. So say you're the same employee for 10 years and then you leave and you haven't got any life insurance, but by then you've got diagnosed with some form of health condition, or you're older and it's more expensive. You've just got to bear that in mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm looking at some life insurance now for older clients, and it's a lot of money a month because of their age and the risk factors, where before they would have had cover through employee schemes.
Yeah, and often you get so much, don't you, per annual?
Yeah, it's usually a multiple of salary. And a lot of people don't know what their employee benefits are when you ask them the question. It's just something, and I think I get something. Yeah. So yeah, if you have got any sort of life insurance, whether that's for your employer or not, make sure you fill in your nomination forms. So if something did happen to you, who is that life policy to benefit.
And then we've had another question about pensions. So apart from pension plans, what other ways can we rely on for a comfortable retirement? And that's from Dragon Deep on LinkedIn.
So you've got your lifetime ISAs. So your lifetime ISAs are designed to either help you on the property ladder or to be a form of retirement planning. So you get your government bonus on that, so you get 25%. You can save ISAs. So ISAs are very tax efficient. You can put £20,000 in an ISA in the current tax year, and that is tax free from the income and the growth element of it.
Yeah, so, and then you just draw down from that on retirement.
So yeah, you can take your money from your ISAs in retirement. It very much depends on what your tax situation is in terms of what your best planning is for you and what you want to achieve. Because both ISAs, your ISAs and your pensions are going to be in a form of investment, and it's investment risk you're happy to take. A lot of your old employee pensions or pensions that has just been set up on your behalf may not necessarily be in the right risk profile for you. So one of the things we do as part of the financial planning process is you fill in a really fun questionnaire. It only takes a few minutes, and that's basically your thoughts and feelings around investment risk, and that helps me assess and discuss in terms of where that investment would sit.
Yeah, I think you probably get just shoved in quite a generic plan, mustn't you, that they feel
majority. You do get you tend to they tend to err on the side of caution and make it quite generic.
Yeah. And what about property? Because some people have property, don't they, and use that as
Yeah, I mean, property is you can invest in property through your shares, obviously, as it's an asset class in itself. But if people want to buy, sort of go into the buy-to-let world, which some people do, I've got clients that have both private pensions and property income as their retirement. The tax benefits of property are reducing and have reduced quite a lot over recent years. And it's not only that, it's how people might want to just do it. They might want to quite like the idea of being a landlord. But, tenants can be quite challenging. Management agents will probably bounce everything off you anyway. There's costs associated with it. So just think carefully about if it is a part of your retirement planning. Do you want to spend part of your retirement effectively running your buy-to-let portfolio?
Yeah.
So again, it's down to sort of personal choice.
Yeah. Okay. And if you've got any debt, what is the best way to pay off your debt? I was thinking, I wrote this question down, and I was remembering, I've not seen them for ages, but the adverts that we used to see, on TV, would consolidate all your debts into one manageable monthly payment. I don't know if they are still running those companies, but it'd be interesting to see your take.
From a debt point of view, I always suggest everyone keeps an eye on the credit report. So there's loads out there that you can look at in terms of Credit Karma and keeping an eye on your credit report. Pay off obviously your highest interest debt first. Avoid payday lenders and things like that. That goes without saying, because that can impact future credit in the future. Just pay off the highest interest. A lot of mortgages facilitate overpayments, so even if you're in a fixed rate, you can usually repay a percentage of your balance without penalty. Some people's repaying the mortgage is a real key driver for them in terms of their sort of financial future. They don't want a mortgage. Other people aren't really bothered about it. So again, it comes down to your personal preference. But reducing debt is always advisable prior to putting anything investment-wise away.
Yes, you should be trying to pay off debt before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of people have debt now, and as long as part of the process is, are you happy to keep that? Is it sustainable? And they've got a specific objective for this money they've inherited, for example. It's just all got to be covered off in the advice process.
Yeah. Okay. And where are people? And the interest rates are shocking, aren't they? I think that's no news. They're talking. I don't know. They're talking about interest rates rising, but where, if we have money to spare, where is the best place to invest?
Right. Okay. A fellow advisor explains keeping too much cash. So I said before about your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months expenditure. Anything excess of that, unless it's for a specific purpose, you are looking to buy something with it. Holding on to too much cash is like holding on to a snowball. So it's going to melt because of inflation and the low interest rates. It's not going to get bigger.
No.
So using your ISA allowance is your first point of call, because obviously you've got that ISA tax wrapper within there. and then other investments, again, in sort of stocks and shares. But when I say stocks and shares, well diversified investments in terms of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So you're not putting all your money with company X, you're spreading it between A, B, C, D, and F. Do you know what I mean? So it's not all together. So if part of your pot goes up, it sort of levels out. So a lot of that is part of the discussions that we have with clients in terms of diversifying their investments, different asset classes, different sectors, different parts of the world. And the investment returns have been pretty good over the last year. So we've got a moderately cautious portfolio within open work that's done over 10% after all fees, and that's sort of on your cautious end of the risk scale.
Okay, that's quite good, because I would be quite being honest, I would be quite nervous investing in stocks and shares. So I'd be worried that I'd invest and it would all go. So working with somebody like you would be quite helpful, I think, to like calm my nerves.
That's a common thing, though, isn't it? It's a common thing that people think, oh, investing, I don't want to lose all my money. But when you sit down and you go through the process, and you're like, oh, I didn't realise that, it's across X amount of different funds in all these different places. And over the last 5 years of performance, it's the performance has been well monitored and kept track of. Like I say, it's a sort of the education and knowledge is power, really, around what your options are.
And have I read a stat, are women more nervous about investing in stocks? Is there quite a gap between men and women? And
I think historically men have been predominantly the people that have taken control of the finances. I read some statistics earlier that men's pension pots tend to be nearly double of a woman's pension pot. But I think women are more and more taking control of their own finances and taking that responsibility, really. I mean, if a client's in a couple, it's always a joint meeting. Even if I'm only looking at advice on one party, it's always for both of them, because it would impact them both as even if they're not married, if they're together. And it's good to help build that relationship. I'd say women overall are taking more control. A lot of my clients are women, tend to be initiated by the woman to contact me, and then I have an appointment with them as a couple. Whether that's because I'm a female advisor, whether a male advisor gets predominantly male clients, I don't know. I can't speak from that, but most of my clients tend to be women.
Yeah. And then we've had a question. Is there any ideal age to start investing in pension plans?
As soon as you can afford to. And as I was saying to Elizabeth earlier, you can start a pension plan for a child now. So you can start a pension from birth. The limits are different to what it is for an adult. But if you imagine paying into a pension for your child for the first 18 years, and then you've got, 40 years worth of growth on that, that's a really
very well off pensioner, probably, hopefully.
So yeah, as soon as you can, really. I mean, you can't start soon enough. And if you think with a pension, you're getting your tax relief anyway, so you're getting an instant return via your tax relief. So as long as you get access to the money, pensions are a great source of investing for the future.
Brilliant. And actually, this leads on to the next question. So how can we ensure our children have the best financial start in life?
So I think children need educating about finances, about spending money. If they see these magic cards come out of the mum's purse and no actual cash, and then they might, for instance, take this magic card and go and spend money on the Switch, because they don't actually feel that they're spending money until mum finds out, and then they're in big trouble. So education is good, but like I say, saving into your junior ISA, if you've got the cash flow to start a pension for a child, give them that accountability in terms of spending money, and sort of that earning money from an age appropriate, and make sure they're well protected. So get your will sorted out, get your power of attorneys as well if you haven't. I
haven't got a power of attorney,
so your power of attorney is basically, if I fell over yesterday, banged my head and lost capacity, my attorney could then make decisions on my behalf. So they could say Laura would want her children to stay in this school. She would want this to happen with the business, and they can make decisions on my behalf. If you haven't got a power of attorney, anything that's solely in your name, so aside from any joint accounts, nobody can do anything with them. So everyone should have a power of attorney.
What happens if your say your personal money then in your account if something happened to you?
So you have to go through the court of protection, and the court will assign a deputy. It's quite expensive. It takes quite a lot of time, and in the meantime, everything just stands still, if you like. And I think it's that misconception that power of attorney is for when you're older and you potentially have, illnesses that might impact your capacity to make decisions, where everybody should have a power of attorney. I think is it Kate Garraway that's had all the issues with her husband and not being able to access the finances and things like that because there was no power of attorney in place.
Oh wow, you're making me. I'm gonna be googling that now. I'll be looking you up. Get me a power of attorney. I don't have that. Okay, so just talking about the children, how much can you put into a child ISA?
So the current limit for this year is £9,000 in the ISA.
A lot then.
Yeah, it's got up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then it's 3,600 in the junior pension.
Okay, so you could save them, and we chatted about this, didn't we, before the call? Do you want to tell people how old they are have to be before they can access their ISA?
Yeah, so on the junior ISA, your child will automatically get it at 18, whether you want to or not. So if you didn't want that to happen, junior ISA may not be the best option, or don't put all the money in the ISA. Do something separate where you're still going to get control over it until the 21, for example.
Yes, you can put it in trust. Is that?
Yeah, you can do trust planning around minors, and you'll do this if you do some form of estate planning as well. So some clients say, you know what, they've inherited this money, and this instance they already had like the child trust fund, what the government allowed. So you can only have that or a junior ISA. You can't have both. But they say we don't want her to get this money at 18. We want it to sort of stay to she's 21. So it was put in a trust so that she got trustees appointed. Her mum and her grandparents were trustees, and then they can give it to her a little bit earlier if they wanted to, but they have ultimate control in terms of when she can have this money.
Okay, brilliant. And then we've had a question: what is the best thumb rule for retirement planning?
Best thumb rule is in terms of how much you put into it. I'd just say save as much as you can for your retirement planning. I mean, part of the process when you see an advisor will be some form of cash flow analysis. So you might say, my current expenditure is X. In retirement, it will then be Y. My state pension will be A, and therefore my private pension will need to be B in order to pay it out. Yeah. And then you can work backwards from there. So you could say, well, in order for me to have the amount in retirement that I need to then save X. So you can work backwards, but you can only do that when you get proper advice. Otherwise, you're just guessing, I suppose.
Yeah, good. And that's just so as people are thinking, there's any last questions that we haven't covered, then pop them in the comments, and we'll get them answered. But I suppose it does sort of leave that it is just sounded such so important to try and get some proper financial advice, because obviously everyone's circumstances are different, and we've all got different finances, different obligations, etc. So where can people find you, connect with you if they want to book an appointment?
So on LinkedIn land, I don't think there's many Shufflebothams around. When I used to be a Smith, you might have found it harder to find me, but lucky or otherwise for me, you should be able to find me quite well. I'm Laura at Sense Financial on Facebook. That's my business page, and you can find that again through my personal profile. And then the company is Sense Financial, based in Urmston in Manchester. So they've got a website on there which has a little bit about me on there and how the practice works. And all my contact details are through my LinkedIn as well as my Facebook page.
And what sort of services, remind people because you don't do wills, but what sort of services do you offer?
So I offer everything else really. So I'll do mortgages, financial protection. So that's like your life insurance, critical illness, your income protection, do business protection for business clients, pensions, investments, savings for children, tax planning. So all that is in my financial planner world. If the things that I can't do or things that are specialist, I've got other people that I work with that can do that. I'm a bit of an open book. It's quite easy going, having a consultation with me. I had to take a screenshot of a meeting the other day actually with some pension clients because I hadn't seen them in person. You have to verify them by taking a screenshot of your Zoom, and they're all laughing. And I said, you would not guess you was on a financial planning meeting when we've took this screenshot. So yeah, it's not as hard. You've just got to be ready to take that step. Really, you've got to be ready to put the time in and take the action to get the advice, and then the ball's in your court thereafter. Really.
And I suppose that's a good, I mean, one of the good things about the COVID pandemic is I suppose you can work with people all over the country and connect and do Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you're based.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even contemplated seeing a client on a video, to be honest, before COVID. But yeah, most of them are on video. I say if they're commutable and we're doing some wealth planning, tends to be an in-person appointment when we get into the final stages of that. But yeah, I'm fairly flexible. And I keep being called the friendly financial advisor, which I quite like that. So yeah, I'm here if anybody wants an informal chat or wants some specific advice. I can give you my calendar link if anyone wants to book in a call.
Yeah, we'll put that in there. And we've had another question from Lucy on LinkedIn. So she heard Martin Lewis talk about claiming child benefit at 0, even if you don't qualify, i.e. you or your partner earn over the threshold. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you earn between £50,000 and £60,000, you get the child benefit tax hit, for want of a better word. But by claiming your child benefit, you're still getting your national insurance contribution. So you class 1 that contribute towards your state pension. So even if you've got to pay all your child benefit back because you're earning too much, by having it in the first place, you're getting your credits for your state pension.
Yeah. I think, can you not claim it and then tick a box so you don't get the money or something as well?
Yeah. So you can basically opt out of having it, but still
get the credit.
Technically have it, if that makes sense. Well, this is what I say about the tax planning element. When you're going into that higher rate tax bracket, like pension planning and just knowledge is quite key to make sure that you avoid Mr. Tax, getting tax hits on things like your child benefit.
I know, because I've heard some horror stories where people have been whacked with that.
I've heard that. People buy property and then suddenly have to do a self-assessment for the first time, and the taxman's like, "Oh, hello, you've been getting child benefit for X amount of years, and you're over the threshold."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So brilliant. So I'm sure if we'll put all your contact details in the comments if people want to, and your calendar links if people want to connect and get any advice, then they know where to reach you. But yeah, and obviously if there's any more questions afterwards, if you let us know, then I can ask Laura, or you can send them, I'm sure, directly to Laura, and she'll try and help you out. But thank you everyone that has watched today. I hope you found it useful. I've literally learned so much. I'm definitely going to be getting the power of attorney sorted. So thank you, Laura, for your time, and thank you
welcome
for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Getting me out of my comfort zone a little bit, streaming me far and wide. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.